The wedding is family only, Ariel. You're not close enough. My sister Stella's voice crackled through my phone speaker, each word landing like a physical blow. I sat frozen in my car outside the grocery store in Portland, bags of food getting warm in the back seat, my hand gripping the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. What do you mean I'm not close enough? I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. We're sisters, she sighed. That particular sigh she always used when she thought I was being difficult. It's going to be intimate. Just the people Blake and I are really close to. You understand. But I didn't understand. I didn't understand at all. My name is Ariel, I'm 27 years old, and I had just been told I wasn't important enough to attend my own sister's wedding. I sat there in that parking lot for 20 minutes after she hung up, watching people walk past with their carts, living their normal lives, while mine felt like it was crumbling around me. Stella was 3 years older than me, and for as long as I could remember, she had been the star of our family. The achiever. The one who did everything right. She went to a prestigious university, landed a high-paying job in marketing at a tech startup in Seattle, bought a condo before she turned 26. Meanwhile, I was a third-grade teacher at Roosevelt Elementary, living in a small one-bedroom apartment, driving a car that was older than my career. Our parents adored her. Every conversation somehow circled back to Stella's latest accomplishment, Stella's latest trip, Stella's perfect life. I drove home on autopilot, my mind spinning. When I got to my apartment, I didn't even bother putting the groceries away. I just collapsed on my worn couch and stared at the ceiling, trying to process what had just happened. Family only. The words kept echoing in my head. We had grown up in the same house, shared the same bedroom until I was 12, fought over the bathroom every morning, stolen each other's clothes, told each other secrets. How was I not family enough? I pulled out my phone and scrolled through Stella's social media, something I did more often than I wanted to admit. Her engagement photos were plastered everywhere. Her and Blake on a beach in Maui, her ring catching the sunlight. Her and Blake at some fancy restaurant, champagne glasses raised. Her and Blake. He worked in finance, made 6 figures, drove a Tesla. He was exactly the kind of man our parents had always hoped one of us would marry. That evening, my mom called. I almost didn't answer, but some part of me hoped she would tell me this was all a mistake, that of course I was invited to the wedding. Hi, sweetie, she said, her voice careful. Stella mentioned she talked to you about the wedding. I waited for her to continue, to tell me it was wrong, to stand up for me. Instead, she said, I know you're probably hurt, but try to understand. Wedding planning is so stressful, and Stella just wants everything to be perfect. It's her special day. My throat felt tight. So I'm not invited because I might ruin her perfect day? My mom made a soft noise, somewhere between a sigh and a tut. Don't be dramatic, Ariel. It's not about you. She's keeping the guest list very small. Very exclusive. Exclusive. That word hung in the air between us. I wasn't exclusive enough for my own sister's wedding. After I hung up with my mom, I called my best friend Jennifer. She had been my roommate in college, the one person who knew everything about my complicated relationship with my family. She did what? Jennifer's voice was sharp with disbelief when I told her. That's insane. You're her sister. I felt tears prickling at the corners of my eyes. Apparently that's not enough. Jennifer was quiet for a moment, and I could hear her moving around, probably pacing like she always did when she was angry. Ariel, I hate to say this, but Stella has always treated you like you're less than. This is just the most obvious example. I knew she was right, but hearing it out loud made it more real, more painful. We talked for an hour, Jennifer listing all the times Stella had dismissed me, overlooked me, made me feel small. By the time we hung up, I felt worse, not better. The next few days passed in a blur. I went to work, stood in front of my classroom full of 8-year-olds, taught them about fractions and reading comprehension, smiled when parents asked how I was doing. But inside, I was drowning. Every time I thought about the wedding, about being excluded from one of the most important days in my sister's life, something inside me twisted. I started having dreams about it. In one dream, I showed up at the wedding anyway, and everyone stared at me like I was an intruder. In another, I watched from outside through a window, pressed against the glass, invisible. I woke up from that one with tears on my face. 2 weeks after Stella's phone call, I went to my parents' house for Sunday dinner. It was a tradition I had maintained religiously, showing up every week like clockwork, even though Stella rarely made the drive down from Seattle. That night, though, she was there. She arrived late, sweeping in with Blake in tow, both of them dressed like they had just come from some fancy event. My mom immediately stood up to hug her, gushing about how wonderful she looked. My dad shook Blake's hand, asked him about work, about the housing market, about his thoughts on the upcoming election. I sat at the table, pushing pot roast around my plate, feeling invisible. No one had asked me about my week. No one had asked how my students were doing, or if anything interesting had happened at school. I was just there, taking up space, not worth noticing. During dinner, Stella started talking about the wedding. Her eyes were bright with excitement as she described the venue, some exclusive estate in the San Juan Islands that required a ferry ride to reach. "It's going to be absolutely magical," she said, reaching for Blake's hand. "We're having the ceremony on the lawn overlooking the water, and then the reception will be in this beautiful glass pavilion. The whole thing is going to be so intimate and romantic." My mom clasped her hands together. "It sounds perfect, sweetheart. Just perfect." I took a sip of water, trying to wash down the bitterness rising in my throat. "How many people are you inviting?" I asked, my voice steady even though my hands were shaking under the table. Stella glanced at me, a flicker of something, guilt maybe, crossing her face. 50, she said. We wanted to keep it really small. 50 people. 50 people were close enough to attend, but I wasn't one of them. I excused myself to go to the bathroom, locked the door, and sat on the edge of the tub, trying to breathe. 50 people meant this wasn't actually about keeping things intimate. This was about choosing who mattered and who didn't. And I didn't matter. When I came back to the table, they were talking about the cost. Blake was saying something about how his parents were covering most of the expenses, but he and Stella were contributing too. The venue alone is $300,000, Stella said, laughing a little, like the amount was both shocking and delightful. But it includes everything: the catering, the flowers, the coordination. It's actually a really good deal when you break it down. $300,000. I made $48,000 a year. The number was so absurd, so far removed from my reality, that I almost laughed. After dinner, I helped my mom clear the dishes while Stella and Blake sat in the living room with my dad, drinking wine and talking about their honeymoon plans. My mom was washing, I was drying, and the silence between us felt heavy. Finally, she said, without looking at me, "I know you're upset about the wedding." I placed a plate in the cupboard carefully, focusing on keeping my hands steady. "I'm hurt, Mom. There's a difference." She handed me another plate, her lips pressed into a thin line. "Stella has always been particular about things. You know that. She wants everything to be just so." I turned to face her. "And I don't fit into her just so?" My mom finally met my eyes, and what I saw there made my stomach drop. Pity. She felt sorry for me. "You and Stella are different people," she said slowly. "You've always been different. She needs things to be a certain way, and you're more flexible. More understanding." Understanding. That word felt like a slap. I had spent my entire life being understanding. Understanding when Stella got the bigger room because she was older. Understanding when my parents spent thousands on her college applications and SAT prep, but told me I would have to make do with a local state school. Understanding when they flew to Seattle for her birthday but forgot mine until 3 days later. Understanding when every conversation became about her achievements, her life, her perfect trajectory. And now I was supposed to understand being excluded from her wedding. I finished drying the dishes in silence, said my goodbyes, and drove home with tears streaming down my face. When I got to my apartment, I poured myself a glass of cheap wine and sat on my couch in the dark. That's when I saw it. A notification on my phone. Stella had posted on social media. I opened it, knowing it would hurt but unable to stop myself. It was a photo of her and Blake, kissing in front of a sunset. The caption read, "Can't wait to marry this man surrounded by the people we love most. 68 days until forever." 68 days. And 50 people who mattered more than I did. I looked at the comments. Friends and family congratulating them, saying they couldn't wait for the wedding. I recognized some of the names. Becca, Stella's college roommate, who she hadn't seen in 3 years. Madison, a girl she went to high school with who she barely kept in touch with. Colin, some guy from Blake's finance firm. Strangers, essentially. Strangers were invited to my sister's wedding, but I wasn't. I set my phone down and pressed my palms against my eyes. The unfairness of it was crushing. I had been a good sister. I had shown up for Stella's college graduation, her housewarming party, her engagement celebration. I had sent her birthday cards every year, called her on holidays, tried to maintain a relationship even when she barely made the effort. And this was what I got in return: exclusion, dismissal. Proof that no matter what I did, I would never be enough. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. Part of me wanted to just accept it, to be the understanding person my mom said I was. But another part of me, a part I usually kept buried deep, was furious. Why should I be understanding? Why should I accept being treated like I didn't matter? The anger grew as the hours passed, hot and sharp in my chest. By the time the sun started to rise, I had made a decision. If Stella didn't want me at her wedding, fine. But I wasn't going to sit at home that day feeling sorry for myself. I was going to do something. Something that would make her see me, make her realize that I existed, that I mattered. I was going to throw a party. And it was going to be on the exact same day as her wedding. The idea seemed crazy at first, something I would dismiss in the light of day. But as I got ready for work, as I drove to school, as I stood in front of my classroom teaching my students about multiplication, the idea wouldn't leave me. It grew stronger, more solid, more real. During my lunch break, I opened my laptop and started researching. Party venues, caterers, entertainment options. Everything was expensive, more expensive than anything I had ever considered spending money on. But then I checked my savings account. $65,000. Money I had been carefully setting aside for years, being responsible, being practical, saving for some undefined future emergency. What if this was the emergency? What if this was the moment that mattered? By the end of the school day, I had a plan forming. Not just any party. Something spectacular. Something people would remember. Something that would make Stella's exclusive wedding look small in comparison. I started looking at yacht rentals. Portland had several companies that rented boats for private events, sailing along the Willamette River and out toward the Columbia. The prices made my head spin. $15,000 for 4 hours. $25,000 for 6 hours with catering. $32,000 for a full evening with premium everything, a DJ, an open bar, gourmet food. I stared at that number for a long time. $32,000. More than half my savings. It was insane. It was reckless. It was exactly what I needed to do. I called the company. A cheerful woman named Tracy answered, and I found myself describing what I wanted. An evening party, elegant but fun, for up to 150 people. She walked me through the options, the different packages, the add-ons. By the end of the call, I had booked it. June 14th. The same day as Stella's wedding. After I hung up, I sat very still, my heart pounding. I had just spent $32,000 on a party. A party designed to compete with my sister's wedding. It should have felt wrong, impulsive, petty. Instead, it felt like the first honest thing I had done in years. That evening, I started working on the guest list. This was the crucial part. The party would only work if the right people came. I opened Stella's social media again and started taking notes. Her college friends, her work colleagues, her extended family members. People she had invited to the wedding, people she cared about impressing. I made a spreadsheet, cross-referencing names with contact information I could find through mutual connections. It took hours, but by midnight, I had a list of 80 people. 80 people who, if they came to my party, wouldn't be at Stella's wedding. The next step was the invitations. They needed to be perfect, enticing, impossible to ignore. I spent an entire weekend designing them on my computer, using a template I found online and customizing it until it looked professional and elegant. The text was simple but intriguing. You're invited to an evening celebration aboard the Willamette Queen. Join us for dinner, dancing, and unforgettable views as we sail into the sunset. Cocktails at 6, departure at 7. Formal attire requested. I included the date, June 14th, but I didn't mention Stella's wedding. I didn't have to. Anyone who looked at the date would understand. I printed the invitations on thick, expensive cardstock and hand-addressed each envelope. Then I started mailing them. One by one, dropping them in the mailbox, each one feeling like a small act of rebellion. The responses started coming in about a week later. At first, just a trickle. A yes from one of Stella's former sorority sisters. A maybe from a cousin. Then more and more. People were intrigued. A yacht party sounded exciting, different, glamorous. Some people messaged me directly, asking questions. Was this a special occasion? Was there a dress code? Could they bring a +1? I answered each message carefully, keeping my tone warm and welcoming. Yes, +1s were fine. Yes, there would be a photographer. No, it wasn't for any specific occasion, just a celebration of life and friendship. The lies came easily, smoothly. By the end of the second week, I had 40 confirmed guests. By the end of the third week, 65. The numbers kept climbing, and with each new RSVP, I felt the surge of something that was half exhilaration, half terror. Then Becca, Stella's college roommate, messaged me, "Ariel, I got your invitation and it sounds amazing. I have to ask though, isn't this the same day as Stella's wedding?" My fingers hovered over the keyboard. This was it. The moment where I either backed down or committed fully. I typed carefully. "Oh, is it? I didn't realize there was a conflict. I planned this months ago. But I completely understand if you can't make it." There was a long pause before her reply came. "Actually, I've been on the fence about the wedding. It's on an island and requires a ferry and an overnight stay, which is kind of a lot. Your party sounds way more convenient. And honestly, more fun. I think I'm going to come to yours instead." My heart was racing as I read her response. She was choosing my party over Stella's wedding. It was working. More messages came over the following days. People apologizing but saying they had already committed to my event before realizing the conflict. People saying they preferred a local party to traveling to the San Juan Islands. People who just thought a yacht party sounded more exciting than a traditional wedding. Each message was a small victory, and I saved every one of them. I knew what I was doing was vindictive. I knew it was designed to hurt Stella the way she had hurt me. But I couldn't stop. It felt too good, too much like finally standing up for myself after years of being pushed aside. I was taking control, making myself visible, forcing everyone to see me. And if that meant ruining Stella's perfect day, then so be it. She had started this when she decided I wasn't worthy of being there. I was just finishing it. 3 weeks before the wedding, my phone rang at 7 in the morning. It was Stella. Her voice was shaking when I answered. "What the hell are you doing?" she demanded, skipping any greeting. I sat up in bed, my heart immediately racing. "What do you mean?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. "You know exactly what I mean." She practically screamed. "People are canceling on my wedding. They're saying they're going to some party instead." "Your party?" "On the same day as my wedding." I let the silence stretch for a moment. "Oh," I said finally, my voice carefully neutral. "I didn't realize there was a conflict. I planned my party months ago." It was a blatant lie, and we both knew it. "Bullshit," Stella hissed. "You're doing this on purpose. You're trying to sabotage my wedding because you're jealous." Jealous. There was that word again. The word my family had used to dismiss my feelings my entire life. "I'm not trying to sabotage anything," I said, my voice hardening. "I'm having a party. People are choosing to come to it. That's not my fault." Stella made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. "You invited my friends. My college roommate, my sorority sisters, my coworkers? You deliberately targeted people you knew I wanted at my wedding." She wasn't wrong. But I wasn't going to admit it. "They're people I know too," I said. "I have a right to invite whoever I want to my own event." She was breathing hard now, and I could picture her face, red with anger, her hands clenched into fists. You can't do this, Ariel. You can't steal my guests on my wedding day. It's psychotic. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Your wedding is family only, remember? I said quietly. You made it very clear that I wasn't close enough to be included. So I made other plans. It's not my problem if other people prefer those plans. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Then Stella spoke, her voice low and venomous. I will never forgive you for this. She hung up before I could respond. I sat there holding my phone, my hands trembling. Part of me felt victorious. Part of me felt sick. But mostly, I felt determined. I had come this far. There was no turning back now. Within an hour of Stella hanging up on me, my mom called. I almost didn't answer, but I knew avoiding her would only make things worse. Ariel Rose, she said, using my full name like she had when I was a child in trouble. I just got off the phone with your sister. She's devastated. Absolutely devastated. How could you do this to her? I closed my eyes, leaning back against my couch. Do what, exactly? I asked. Throw a party? My mom's voice rose. Don't play innocent with me. You deliberately scheduled a party on Stella's wedding day and invited her guests. You're trying to ruin the most important day of her life. I felt anger flare in my chest, hot and sharp. The most important day of her life that I wasn't invited to, I shot back. The wedding that I wasn't close enough to attend. Remember that, Mom? Remember when Stella told me I didn't matter enough to be there? My mom sputtered. She didn't mean it like that. She just wanted something intimate, I laughed, but there was no humor in it. 50 people is intimate? 50 people, including friends she hasn't seen in years, including Blake's coworkers she barely knows, but not including her own sister? My mom was quiet for a moment. Then she said, her voice tight, You've always been jealous of Stella. Always competing with her, always trying to one-up her. This just proves it. The words hit like a physical blow. Jealous? I repeated. I'm jealous because I wanted to be included in my sister's wedding? I'm jealous because I've spent my entire life watching you and Dad treat her like she's special while I'm just, background noise? My mom's breath caught. That's not true, and you know it. Isn't it? I said, and I could hear my voice cracking. When was the last time you asked about my life, Mom? When was the last time you came to Portland to visit me? When was the last time you celebrated something I did without immediately comparing it to something Stella did better? My mom didn't answer. After a long moment, she said quietly, If you go through with this party, you're going to destroy your relationship with your sister. Is that really what you want? I thought about it, really thought about it. Did I want to destroy my relationship with Stella? Maybe I did. Maybe the relationship had been destroyed long ago, and I was just finally acknowledging it. Stella destroyed our relationship when she decided I wasn't worth including in her life, I said. I'm just existing, Mom. I'm just trying to matter. My mom sighed, a long, tired sound. You're making a mistake, Ariel. A huge mistake. Then she hung up. I spent the rest of that day expecting more calls, more angry messages. But none came. The silence from my family was somehow worse than the yelling. It felt final, like a door closing. That night, I lay in bed and thought about what I was doing. Really thought about it. I was spending my life savings on a party designed to hurt my sister. I was driving a wedge between myself and my family that might never be repaired. Was it worth it? But then I thought about all the years of being overlooked. All the times I had swallowed my hurt and smiled and pretended everything was fine. All the moments I had made myself smaller so Stella could shine brighter. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that yes, it was worth it. I was done being invisible. The final 2 weeks before the wedding passed in a strange limbo. More RSVPs came in. By the time the final count was settled, I had 108 confirmed guests. 108 people who had chosen my party over Stella's wedding. I knew from mutual friends that Stella's wedding attendance had dropped dramatically. People were dropping out left and right, citing conflicts, sudden illnesses, family emergencies. Some were honest and said they had other plans. The venue she had booked, the $300,000 estate with the glass pavilion and water views, was going to be half empty. Part of me felt guilty. Part of me felt triumphant. Mostly, I just felt numb, like I was watching everything happen from outside my body. I threw myself into the final preparations for the party. I met with the catering company, approved the menu, selected wines. I hired a photographer, a talented woman named Kelly who promised to capture every moment. I chose a DJ, reviewed playlists, made sure there would be a mix of music that would keep people dancing all night. I bought a new dress, a stunning navy blue gown that hugged my curves and made me feel elegant and powerful. I got my hair done, my nails done. I looked in the mirror the day before the party and barely recognized myself. I looked confident, self-assured, like someone who commanded attention. It was exactly who I wanted to be. The day of the wedding arrived. I woke up early, my stomach a knot of nerves and anticipation. I had barely slept, my mind racing with last-minute details and what-ifs. What if no one showed up? What if everyone changed their minds at the last minute and went to Stella's wedding instead? What if this whole plan backfired spectacularly? I made myself coffee, tried to eat breakfast, but could barely swallow. The hours crawled by. I checked my phone obsessively, waiting for cancellation messages that never came. By the afternoon, I started getting ready. I took a long shower, did my makeup with shaking hands, slipped into my dress. When I looked at myself in the mirror, I saw someone I didn't quite recognize. Someone bold. Someone who had taken a stand. Someone who refused to be invisible anymore. I drove to the marina where the yacht was docked, my heart pounding the entire way. The sun was starting to lower in the sky, casting everything in golden light. The Willamette Queen was even more beautiful than I remembered from the booking photos. It was a sleek white vessel with multiple decks, string lights already glowing, music drifting from the speakers. The catering staff was setting up tables with white linens and elegant centerpieces. The bar was stocked with top-shelf liquor. Everything was perfect. Tracy, the event coordinator, met me at the gangway. "You look stunning," she said, beaming. "Everything is ready. Your guests should start arriving any minute." I nodded, not trusting my voice. This was really happening. There was no turning back now. The guests started arriving right on time. First in small groups, then in a steady stream. I stood at the entrance, greeting everyone, accepting compliments on the venue, on my dress, on what a wonderful idea this was. Becca arrived early, wrapping me in a tight hug. "Ariel, this is incredible," she gushed. "I'm so glad I came." Other familiar faces followed. Stella's sorority sisters, all dressed in designer gowns. Her work friends from Seattle, laughing and taking selfies against the backdrop of the water. Cousins I hadn't seen in years, neighbors from our childhood, friends from high school. They kept coming, filling the yacht with energy and excitement. By 7 p.m., when the boat pulled away from the dock, there were over 100 people on board, champagne glasses in hand, ready to celebrate. As we sailed down the river, the city lights twinkling on both sides, I moved through the crowd in a daze. People kept stopping me, telling me what a great party this was, how they were having such a wonderful time. The DJ was playing perfect music, a mix of current hits and nostalgic throwbacks. The dance floor was packed. The food was delicious, past hors d'oeuvres that disappeared as quickly as the servers could circulate them. The bar was 3 deep with people ordering drinks. It was everything I had imagined and more. For the first time in my life, I was the center of attention. I was the one creating the memory. I was the one people would talk about. Not Stella, me. Jennifer found me on the upper deck, away from the noise of the party. She handed me a glass of champagne and clinked hers against it. "You did it," she said, her eyes shining. "You actually pulled it off." I took a sip, the bubbles tickling my nose. "I did, didn't I?" She studied my face in the dim light. "How does it feel?" I thought about it. How did it feel? Victorious? Vindicated? Terrifying? "It feels like I finally exist," I said quietly. She squeezed my hand. "You've always existed, Ariel. They just refuse to see you." We stood there for a moment, looking out at the water, the lights of Portland sliding past. Then she said, "You know there's no going back after this, right? Your family, Stella, they're never going to forgive you." I nodded. I know. And I did know. But standing there on that yacht, surrounded by people who had chosen to be with me, I realized I was okay with that. Maybe some relationships weren't meant to be saved. Around 9 p.m., my phone started buzzing in my clutch. I ignored it at first, but it kept going. Finally, during a quieter moment, I checked it. Text messages from numbers I didn't recognize, photos. Someone had sent me photos of Stella's wedding. My hands shook as I opened them. The venue was as beautiful as she had described. White flowers everywhere, elegant decorations, the glass pavilion glowing against the darkening sky. But the room was devastated by empty chairs. There were maybe 30 people scattered throughout a space meant for 50. Stella stood at the front in her wedding dress, a forced smile on her face, but even through the photo I could see the devastation in her eyes. Tables set for 8 had 2 or 3 people at them. The dance floor in the background was empty. It looked less like an intimate wedding and more like a party no one wanted to attend. The message with the photos said, "Thought you'd want to see what your little stunt accomplished. Hope you're proud of yourself." I didn't recognize the number. Maybe one of Stella's bridesmaids, or maybe Blake's sister. I stared at those photos for a long time, my champagne forgotten in my other hand. I had done this. I had orchestrated this. I had taken Stella's perfect day and turned it into a disaster. The goal had been to make her feel what I felt when she excluded me. To make her understand what it was like to be deemed not important enough, not worthy enough. And judging by those photos, I had succeeded beyond my wildest expectations. So why did I feel so hollow? I deleted the photos and put my phone away. I wasn't going to let guilt ruin this night. This was my night. I had earned it. I went back down to the main deck, rejoined the party, forced myself to smile and laugh and dance. People were having an amazing time. That was what mattered. Around 11 p.m., as the boat started heading back to the marina, the DJ played a slow song. Couples moved to the dance floor, swaying together. I stood at the railing, watching them, feeling suddenly very alone. A man I vaguely recognized, one of Blake's co-workers I think, approached me. "Great party," he said, leaning against the railing next to me. "Best wedding alternative I've ever been to." Wedding alternative. That's what this was. An alternative. A rebellion. An act of revenge disguised as a celebration. "Thank you," I said, keeping my voice steady. He was quiet for a moment, then said, "For what it's worth, I think it was brave. What you did. Standing up for yourself." I looked at him sharply. "What do you mean?" He shrugged. "Everyone knows why you threw this party. Stella talks, word gets around. She uninvited you to her wedding, you threw your own party the same night. It's bold. Maybe a little crazy, but bold." I didn't know how to respond to that. Was it brave? Or was it just petty? Did it matter? He pushed off the railing. "Anyway, hope you enjoyed your night. You deserve it." Then he walked away, leaving me alone with my thoughts. The party wound down as we docked back at the marina. Guests stumbled off the yacht, laughing and taking final photos, thanking me for an unforgettable evening. Kelly, the photographer, promised to send me all the images within a week. The catering staff cleaned up efficiently. By midnight, it was just me and Tracy standing on the empty deck. "That was one hell of a party," Tracy said, grinning. "Best event we've hosted all year." I nodded, exhausted in every possible way. "Thank you for everything." She left, and I stood there alone on the yacht for a few more minutes, looking out at the quiet marina. $32,000. 108 guests. One ruined wedding. One night of being seen. Was it worth it? I didn't have an answer yet. I drove home in the early hours of the morning, the city quiet around me. When I got to my apartment, I didn't bother turning on the lights. I just kicked off my heels, collapsed on my couch still in my dress, and stared at the ceiling. My phone was full of messages. People thanking me for the party, asking when we could do it again, telling me they'd had the best time. But there were other messages too. From numbers I didn't know, from people who had been at Stella's wedding. They called me names I won't repeat. They told me I was vindictive, cruel, jealous, pathetic. They said I had ruined my sister's special day out of spite. Some of the messages were surprisingly cruel, hitting exactly where it hurt most. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was all of those things. But I had also finally been seen. Finally been heard. Finally mattered. And I couldn't regret that, no matter how much I wanted to. The next morning, I woke up to 57 missed calls. Most were from my mom. A few from my dad. Several from numbers I didn't recognize. There was one voicemail from my mom, left at 6 a.m. Her voice was cold when I played it. I don't know who you are anymore, Ariel. The daughter I raised would never do something so deliberately hurtful. Stella is heartbroken. Her wedding was supposed to be the happiest day of her life, and you destroyed it. I don't think I can talk to you right now. Maybe not for a long time. You've shown your true colors, and they're uglier than I ever imagined. The voicemail ended with a click. I played it again, then a third time, each word sinking deeper into my chest. My mother thought I was ugly. My mother couldn't talk to me. My mother had chosen Stella's side, just like she always had. I spent that entire Sunday in my apartment. Curtains drawn, phone on silent. I ordered takeout, ate it sitting on my kitchen floor, felt completely numb. Photos from the party started appearing on social media. People posted pictures of themselves on the yacht, tagged me, raved about what an incredible night it had been. In the comments, people who hadn't been there asked questions. What party was this? How did I miss this? Next time invite me. On the surface, it looked like a massive success. But I couldn't feel happy about it. I kept thinking about those photos of Stella's wedding. The empty chairs, the forced smile. I had wanted to hurt her. And I had. Mission accomplished. So why did I feel like I had lost something I could never get back? Monday came, and I had to go back to work. I stood in front of my third graders, teaching them about reading comprehension, helping them with their math worksheets, and pretended like my entire world hadn't shifted over the weekend. During lunch, I checked my phone. More social media posts about the party. And one email. From Stella. The subject line was simple: I hope you're happy. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. The email was short. You got what you wanted, Ariel. You ruined my wedding. Half my guests didn't show up because of your petty revenge party. The photos are going to look ridiculous with all those empty chairs. Blake is furious. His family thinks I'm a joke who can't even get people to come to her own wedding. My friends are choosing sides, and a lot of them are choosing yours. Congratulations. You win. I hope destroying the most important day of my life was worth it. Don't ever contact me again. I read the email 3 times. Then I closed my laptop and put my head down on my desk. My hands were shaking. She was right. I had ruined her wedding. That had been the point, hadn't it? To make her feel what I felt. To hurt her the way she hurt me. But reading her words, seeing the pain laid out so plainly, I felt something crack inside me. This wasn't victory. This was mutual destruction. We had both lost. I had lost my sister, my parents, my family. And for what? One night of being noticed? One night of mattering? Was it really worth the cost? I didn't know anymore. I just knew that I felt empty, hollowed out, like I had used up everything inside me and had nothing left. The days turned into weeks. The photos from my party arrived. Beautiful professional shots of people laughing and dancing and having the time of their lives. Kelly had captured everything perfectly. I looked at them once, then stored them on my computer and tried to forget about them. People kept messaging me, telling me we should do it again, asking when the next big event was. I didn't respond. I couldn't explain that there wouldn't be a next time, that the party had served its purpose and now there was nothing left but the aftermath. My parents didn't call. Stella didn't reach out. My extended family, the aunts and uncles and cousins, went silent. It was like I had been erased from the family tree. I had made myself visible to everyone else, but in the process, I had become invisible to the people who were supposed to matter most. Jennifer tried to help. She came over most evenings, brought food, forced me to talk. You did what you had to do, she said one night as we sat on my couch with takeout Chinese. Stella treated you like garbage, and you stood up for yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. But there was something wrong with it, I wanted to say. Because standing up for myself had cost me everything. Instead, I just nodded and pushed lo mein around on my plate. Do you regret it? Jennifer asked quietly. I thought about it. Did I regret throwing the party? Did I regret spending my savings, ruining Stella's wedding, destroying my relationship with my family? I don't know, I said honestly. Sometimes I think it was the bravest thing I've ever done. Other times I think it was the stupidest. A month after the wedding, I got a message from my aunt, my mom's sister. She had always been kind to me, the one adult in the family who never compared me to Stella. "Can we meet for coffee?" she asked. I agreed, desperate for any connection to my family, even if it was just to hear more about how terrible I was. We met at a cafe in downtown Portland, the same one where I used to meet Stella before everything fell apart. My aunt hugged me when she arrived, and I almost cried at the simple affection. We ordered our drinks and sat across from each other. "How are you?" she asked, and she sounded like she genuinely wanted to know. "I'm surviving," I said. It was the truth. I was going through the motions, getting up each day, going to work, coming home, but I wasn't really living. My aunt stirred her coffee, choosing her words carefully. "I want you to know that I don't think you're a monster," she said. "What you did was extreme, yes. But Stella hurt you first, deeply. And your parents have always played favorites. I've watched it for years, and I've always thought it was unfair. Hearing someone in my family acknowledge it, finally validate what I had always felt, made something inside me break. Tears started streaming down my face before I could stop them. I just wanted to matter," I whispered. "I just wanted to be seen." My aunt reached across the table and took my hand. "You do matter, Ariel. You always have. Stella's insecurity made her try to diminish you, and your parents enabled it. That's on them, not you. But I need you to understand something. What you did, throwing that party, it burned every bridge. There's no going back from this. Your family is never going to forgive you." I wiped my eyes with a napkin. "I know." She squeezed my hand. "So the question is, what are you going to do now? Are you going to spend the rest of your life feeling guilty about one act of rebellion? Or are you going to use this as a catalyst to build a better life, one where you don't need your family's approval to feel worthy?" I didn't have an answer. She smiled sadly. "I can't fix this for you. No one can. But I can tell you that you deserve better than what your family gave you. Better than being overlooked and dismissed and treated like you're less than. And maybe losing them is actually freeing you to find that." We talked for another hour, and when we parted ways, I felt marginally better. Not good, but less like I was drowning. Over the next few months, I started to rebuild. Slowly, carefully, like I was learning to walk again. I threw myself into my work, volunteering for extra committees at school, mentoring new teachers, finding purpose in helping my students succeed. I started going to therapy, something I should have done years ago. My therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Patricia, helped me understand that my relationship with my family had been unhealthy long before the wedding incident. "You spent your entire life trying to earn love that should have been unconditional," she said during one session. "And when you finally stopped trying, when you finally demanded to be seen, they rejected you. That says everything about them and nothing about you." Her words helped, slowly chipping away at the guilt and shame I carried. I also started making new connections, building a life separate from my family. I joined a book club, met women who became genuine friends. I started dating again, nothing serious, just casual dinners and movies, reminding myself that I was worth someone's time and attention. I adopted a cat from the local shelter, a grumpy orange tabby I named Mango who slept on my chest every night and purred like he was powered by a motor. Small things, but they added up. My apartment, which had always felt temporary and sad, started to feel like home. I painted the walls, bought new furniture, hung artwork that I actually liked instead of generic prints. I was creating a space that was mine, and mine alone. 6 months after the wedding, I made a decision. I applied for a teaching position in Austin, Texas. It was a fresh start, a chance to leave behind the ghosts of Portland and build something new. When I got the offer, a better salary and a highly rated school, I accepted without hesitation. I gave notice at my job, said goodbye to Jennifer and my other friends, promised to stay in touch. Packing up my apartment felt like shedding a skin, leaving behind the person I had been and stepping into someone new. Someone who took up space without apology. Someone who didn't wait for permission to matter. Someone who had learned, painfully, that sometimes you have to burn everything down to build something better. The day I left Portland, I drove past my parents' house one last time. I didn't stop, didn't call, didn't try to make amends. There was nothing left to say. They had made their choice, and I had made mine. As I merged onto the highway heading south, my car packed with everything I owned, Mango yowling in his carrier in the back seat, I felt something I hadn't felt in months: hope. Not happiness, not yet. But hope that maybe, eventually, I would be okay. That maybe throwing that party, ruining Stella's wedding, losing my family, maybe all of it had been necessary. Maybe it was the only way I could finally break free. Stella never reached out. I heard through mutual friends that she and Blake were having problems. The humiliation of the empty wedding had been too much for him. He felt like she had lied about their social standing, made promises she couldn't keep. They separated 4 months after the wedding, divorced within a year. When I heard the news, I felt a complicated mix of emotions. Part of me felt vindicated. Part of me felt guilty. Mostly, I just felt sad. Sad for both of us, for the sisters we could have been if things had been different. We could have supported each other, lifted each other up, been each other's champions. Instead, we had destroyed each other. And while I had initiated the final blow, Stella had thrown the first punch by deciding I wasn't worth including in her life. In Austin, I thrived in ways I never had in Portland. I made new friends who didn't know my history, who saw me as just Ariel, not Stella's forgotten sister. I advanced in my career, became a lead teacher, mentored new educators. I dated a man named Christopher for a while, a software engineer who made me laugh and treated me like I mattered. It didn't last forever, but it was good while it did, and when it ended, we parted as friends. I bought a small house with a yard, adopted a dog to keep Mango company. I built a life that felt full and rich and entirely mine. And slowly, very slowly, the guilt started to fade. I stopped checking Stella's social media, stopped wondering what my parents were doing, stopped defining myself by the family I had lost. My aunt kept in touch, the only family member who did. She would call every few months, update me on family news without judgment or expectation. Through her, I learned that Stella eventually moved to Denver, started over with a new job and a new apartment. She was seeing a therapist too, apparently, working through her own issues. I was glad for that. I didn't wish her ill, despite everything. I just wished we could have found a way to coexist without destroying each other. But maybe that had never been possible. Maybe we had been on this collision course our entire lives, and the wedding was just the inevitable conclusion. 2 years after I left Portland, I got an email from Stella. The subject line was simple: "I'm sorry." I stared at it for a long time before opening it, my heart racing. The email was longer this time, several paragraphs. She talked about therapy, about realizing how she had treated me growing up, about understanding why I had done what I did. "I'm not saying you were right," she wrote. "What you did still hurt me, and I don't know if I'll ever fully forgive you. But I understand now why you did it. I was cruel to exclude you from my wedding. I was cruel in a lot of ways, for a lot of years. I made you feel invisible because it made me feel bigger. And that wasn't fair. None of it was fair. I don't expect you to forgive me either. I just wanted you to know that I finally see it. I finally see you. And I'm sorry it took losing you for me to understand what I had." I read the email 3 times. Then I closed my laptop and went for a walk with my dog. The Texas sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. I thought about Stella, about forgiveness, about whether it was possible to repair something so thoroughly broken. By the time I got home, I had made a decision. I wrote back a short email. "Thank you for saying that. It means more than you know. I'm sorry too, for the way I handled things. We both made mistakes. Maybe someday we can talk, really talk, and figure out if there's anything left to salvage. But not yet. I'm still healing, and I think you are too. Take care of yourself, Stella." I hit send before I could second guess it. She wrote back the next day. "I understand. Take all the time you need. Maybe someday." That was it. Just those 5 words. And somehow, they were enough. We weren't ready to rebuild our relationship, might never be ready. But we had acknowledged each other, seen each other clearly for the first time in our lives. And that felt like a kind of closure, or maybe a beginning. I didn't know which yet. Either way, I saved the email and went back to living my life, one day at a time, building something that was mine alone. My parents never reached out. Through my aunt, I heard that they felt I had crossed an unforgivable line, that what I did was too vindictive to overlook. I made peace with that too, eventually. Some relationships aren't meant to be fixed. Some damage is permanent. And that was okay. I had spent too many years trying to earn love from people who were never going to give it freely. Now, I poured that energy into myself, into my students, into my friends, into building a life that felt authentic and fulfilling. I stopped measuring my worth by my family's approval and started measuring it by my own happiness. And that made all the difference. Looking back now, 3 years after that yacht party, I can say that throwing it was both the worst and best thing I ever did. It cost me my family, my savings, my sense of security. But it also freed me. It forced me to stop playing small, stop accepting less than I deserved, stop waiting for permission to exist fully. Did Stella deserve what I did to her? Maybe not. But did I deserve what she did to me? Definitely not. We both hurt each other, and we both paid the price. The difference is, I used that pain to build something new. I took the ashes of my old life and created something better, something that was entirely my own. And while the journey was painful, excruciating even, I don't regret it. Because I finally became visible. I finally mattered. And no one, not Stella, not my parents, not anyone, could take that away from me ever again.